Start doing the things that you would normally not do, the things that you think are not okay. Trying these things that you think are negative. Just because you think they're negative doesn't mean that your companion thinks that they're negative.
Hey, welcome to another edition of the Journey to Freedom podcast. And this year is an exciting year. We're in 2024. I'm not sure what year you're going to watch this in or listen to this in, but this year we are interviewing 100 Black men who are successful. And when I think about success, success can mean many things. For some people, success is the amount of money somebody makes. For some folks, success is what we do in the community or how we interact with others. To me, when I think about defining success, and I've heard different people talk about it, is for us, if we're able to live in our purpose, and if you're able to live in your purpose and then shine within that purpose, then you're being successful. And when we say ultra successful, I don't know if we ever get to ultra successful unless we're doing exactly every day. We wake up all day doing exactly what our purpose is. I guess that would be ultra successful. But I think we're all working on it. We're all on a journey. We're all moving forward in what that purpose is and then how we define it. And so this year I've had the opportunity. We're doing 100 as of filming this. We are in the month of December. And I've done I think like 91 podcasts so far. So we're at 92. So I get 8 more before the end of the year, which I think is not going to be an issue at all. But then because they have been so fruitful, because they've been so good, I don't think I'm going to stop here. This Sunday, I'm actually going to be able to do, and maybe you guys don't want to watch this, but we've been talking about one of the themes that has come up a lot is relationships and how we interact with a relationship, and especially with Black women and Black men, and what that dichotomy looks like. And so on Sunday night, I'm having a panel, and we're going to do 3 Black women and 3 Black men, and they're going to talk about what the women expect, and the men are going to talk about what the men expect in relationship. And so, it's going to be I don't even know what to expect at this time. But today, I have Yehloe on it, and what's really cool, he's a poet, and he is very good he's living in his purpose. And the reason I know this is because I was able to go onto his podcast about a week ago, and it was phenomenal. We had so much fun, and we were able to talk, and I could not pass by saying, I need you on mine. I need us to talk. I need you to be able to tell your story. Because when you're the host, you don't really get to tell your story all the time. You're really worried. You're concentrating on what other people are doing and what they're bringing to your podcast and what they have. And so I was able to do that on his and tell all about me and take up all the time. Whereas I really wanted to dig into Yehloe and his life and the things that he's done and where he's going and his dreams and his goals. And of course, we'll talk about our pillars if we get there, which are, faith, finance, health, identity, and trust. And we'll get to those. But we're going to just have some fun today as we continue to talk about what it means to be successful as a Black man in America in 2024 and beyond, because we know we're on a journey. There's shoulders of giants that have gone before us. I often say, I guess I would have made it because I wouldn't have known any different. But now that I know what I know, there's no way I could have made it through slavery. I don't even know if I could have made it in the early civil rights time. And just, the egg, Dr. Crawford, who's been one of our guests, sent me a thing. What if we went back, with all the political craziness that's happened? What if we went back to slavery? And I'm like, if we went back to slavery in America, it wouldn't be based on race. There's no way that would work. Social economic might be able to figure out a way to make it happen. But if you took the Black men that are alive in our country right now and tried to make slaves, no, I don't think it would work. So without me taking all that time, Yehloe, why don't you go ahead and tell your story, and you can start wherever you want. And I can't wait to hear it, and can't wait to chop it up with you. So you're up.
Well, thank you. And for your audience, I am Yehloe the Poet. And my journey literally started about the age of 10. I've been doing poetry ever since then. I love poetry. It's my life, it's my passion, and pretty much everything is involved in my poetry. So I'm actually doing poetry with music behind it. I do poetry impromptu. I do some that I've written. I'll actually do those via video and post them on the platforms. I had a lot of fun doing poetry. I've traveled different cities and states doing poetry. It's just been my life. I really love it. And one of the things that I look to get from the audience is unity. And I got that concept from Michael Jackson and Bob Marley because their music, the purpose for their music was to actually unify people, bring people together in harmony. And it didn't matter what race, color, creed, nationality that the people were. They just wanted humanity to be unified. And that's what I look to do through my poetry. I love it.
Oh, that is so cool. Maybe you can just give us a sample. Just I don't know how often you get to do it, and but I would love to just hear. You say you did impromptu. I'm not expecting impromptu. You could do one that you memorized, but yeah, maybe you can just give us a little taste of something you've been able to put together.
Well, this is pretty cool because there's one that I love. It's called Struggle. And being that you're doing a platform about 100 black men and their successes and things of that nature, this will probably fit the narrative.
Awesome, awesome.
So every day I was told that this right here is the sweet, sweet land of liberty. If this land is so sweet and liberal, then why am I surrounded by sin and fallacies? These people used us to shed blood for a country we didn't even come from. They string us along and lie to us about the truth, trying not to make us feel dumb. We live in a society controlled by greed, weed, and drugs. Territorial fools label themselves with tattoos as phony thugs. Peace is an unheard of area in our neck of the wood. We keep living on broken promises that make politicians look good. The struggle is real. The struggle is real. Make no doubt about it. The struggle is real.
Oh man, that's awesome. Thank you. It did fit. It was 100% appropriate for the moment that we're in, and what we're talking about it, and how to how is it that we move forward, and how is it that we the things that we were taught, and the things that as growing up, uh, you can't say that America has been the best place for black men in the last 400 years. And so at the same time, though, you go, okay, so how do we move forward? How do we take the struggle is real and say, okay, but how do we make the best of it? And so I can tell you are living in your purpose. This is what God made you for. This is what you get to do. This is how you move forward. When you think about purpose and being in purpose and moving forward, just talk to me a little bit of what that means to you, and how you're not distracted by things that try to take you away from it.
So for me, when you look at, I love purpose because I feel like everybody, everything, doesn't matter what it is, whatever source that it comes from, we all have a purpose. And I love this because one of the things that made me realize that this was my purpose was after I finally came out from being that little shy, quiet child to actually being this young man that would actually speak out and say things and being an advocate for the rights of people and fighting for people rights and things of that nature. Those things right there let me know that this is my purpose. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I love that. I love it a lot because this gives me the opportunity to shine in areas where I didn't even know. I could actually shine in. Because when I look at purpose, I look at the things that I'm doing and how they affect other people outside of myself. And when those effects are showing and shining as positive, and people are actually reciprocating the messages that I'm putting out, that right there says a whole lot to me. I mean, a whole lot. There's no better way to express the type of love that people are receiving from you when they're showing it to you. They're constantly coming to you and talking to you about it. I mean, this is these are blessings that I never stop counting. You know.
Yeah. You know, and I love how you're saying that too, because when you're in purpose, you found a way, or we find a way to serve others, right? I don't think you can
Mm,
live in purpose. My purpose that God put me on this earth is to get in a sailboat and go for 20 years and never speak to anybody. That you can't
right.
convince me that you're living in purpose if that's what you're doing. And so to be able to take a gift that God gave you and to be able to use it where somebody else is lifted up, or somebody else is encouraged, or somebody else believes that they can make it through,
Mhm.
is why we do it, right? It's why you go there and do
Yes.
it. And even for somebody, and there's so well, I don't have that talent, or I'm not a great communicator, or God didn't give me those, the gift of lyrics or whatever. But then you find people. You could be at your job as a custodian that's in a group of kids, and for the last 25 years, you've been feeding in to those kids who come through the lunchroom or come through whatever it is, and that could be your purpose. It doesn't have to be that you're in front of thousands of people to be successful. There's so many people that you can start thinking about that have been ultra successful in their purpose because they're fulfilling serving others, which is so cool. And I'm so
Yes.
glad that you're able to do that. Now, you stated that, or you talked about your identity. Or you didn't say your identity. You just said you started doing this when you were 10. But that kind of created an
Yes.
identity for you. And when we think about identity, what are some of the things that helped define that for you as you were growing up?
Well, I'll actually have to start at birth because
Okay.
it's crazy. I was one of those people that was actually born at home, and my
Really?
mom
Okay.
had a yeah, my mom had a midwife. My grandmother was there, and it's crazy because as soon as I came out, my grandmother said yellow, and everybody that was in the room looked around at her like, okay, why did she say that? And yellow means I walk with the spirit. And my grandmother obviously saw that I was going to be that type of person that walks with the spirit, walks with the vibe, walk with the purpose, and looks to um, do things that are going to help to benefit other people rather than to try and take something away from people. And the only thing that I want to take away from people, and I don't mean take it in a way that they can't have it themselves, is just appreciation and a simple thank you. That's the only thing I ever want from people. A simple appreciation, thank you, and to at least understand exactly what I'm saying and where I'm coming from when I'm delivering messages.
My gosh, that is so cool. And so, so as you got older, and we were all pulled in different directions, right? You go to different places, and other people see different talents in you, and you have sometimes it's a community that helps you see that.
Mm,
Sometimes it's your family. Sometimes it's coaches or teachers, or for
yes.
you, what do you think? Can you look to in maybe the last 10 years or something that's really helped you hone that identity as I guess as an adult? We have all these people that are kids and we kind of come out, but as an adult, I think we refine it a little bit. What
I
would be
think
some of those things for you?
I think that one of the things that helped me was to realize that as an adult, everything is not super serious. And we have to understand that as an adult, we have the opportunity Not that we have to live that way, but we have an opportunity to take steps back and look at our past and resonate with our past and allow that to reflect on who we are today. So I take that, and I'm one of the silliest, most joking, some of everything. I'm just extremely fun to be around. And my wife, 30 years now, we've never once had an argument, and every day I always keep her smiling or laughing every day. And I told her when I first got with her, I said, I'm going to prove to you a love that no other male that's been in your life has ever proven to you. And she was like, "What?" It's like, "Are you serious?" And I kid you not, if I were to bring my wife along, she would tell you the same thing. She's like, "Yeah, he made this promise, this fool, he made this promise, and he stuck to it. He stuck to it." I compliment her every day, every single day. I compliment my wife. And these things right here, all these things together, along with my children coming to me and they like, "Dad, oh my goodness, you are so silly, Dad. You are so silly." I'm always helpful. I'm always giving them advice. And as long as my children are coming to me, even now that they're adults, and getting the advice from me and actually following my advice and seeing how it worked, I think that these things right here help to keep me going back and forth in that, okay, when it's time to be serious, it's the time to be serious. When it's time to be silly, it's the time to be silly. When it's the time to be the person that I need to be in the moment, I'm going to be that person that I need to be in the moment. These are things that help shape and mold me in that direction.
Oh, I mean that is so neat. When we think about relationship, right, and how important the relationship, and you somehow there was an identity that you thought that you needed to be the best husband that's out there. Where does
Hmm.
that come from, and how have you been able to find ways to make it better? Because yeah, I can't imagine you're the, even though you were doing a great job 30 years ago, it has
Hmm.
to have evolved and gotten better now. And what allowed you to do that? What mindset or what thought process, or just being a husband? Then we'll move on to being a dad. But I want to kind of start at being a husband. And yeah.
So the main thing that got me started on doing those types of things and that gives me the mindset that I have to do that is I studied. I studied as a youth, as a young man. I studied the behavioral patterns of women. I studied the rhythmatic patterns, the energies that women, have and the things that they throw off at us. I've even asked women questions. I've asked them in different age groups so that I can understand each level that I'm actually talking to the ladies on. And when I talked to my wife, one of the first things that I did was asked her to tell me something about herself that maybe she didn't, feel like talking about, or maybe she did feel like talking about it. However it is, just give me something about yourself. And I actually paid very, very close attention to what she was saying. When I did that, she looked at me and she was like, "You're actually listening to what I'm saying?" I'm like, "Yes, I actually am listening to what you're saying." And she knew that I was listening because I would, do the yes, do the okay, I'm not so sure about that part. And when I do something like that, then she's like, what is it? I say, "I really want to understand your point of view on what you meant by what you just said." And when I say it that way, because I want to make sure that I'm saying things that are appropriate and not turning into some form of an argument or making it seem like I'm trying to be deceptive or manipulative. I want to let her know that everything is genuine and right off the top. And to go off for another thing, one time she got angry with me,
Oh,
and it wasn't my fault. It wasn't my fault. That's the cool part. It wasn't my fault. So when she got angry, because it was a rumor that she heard that I was supposed to be participating in something that I would never participate in. So she was like coming to me and she was snapping at me, snapping at me, and snapping at me. And I was just standing there and I was just looking at her and I was smiling because I knew that this was a total misunderstanding. And she said, "I don't know why you're sitting there looking at me with that smirk on your face." And I stopped after she got finished. I stopped. I stood there and I said, "So tell me, what was your trigger? What triggered you to even respond to me the way that you're responding to me right now?" She looked at me and was like, "Huh? What?" And I was getting ready to repeat myself, and she was like, "No, I heard what you said, but nobody's ever asked me anything like that before. It's like I'm fussing at you and making all these innuendos, and you just gonna pop out and ask me something like that." I said, "Yeah, because I really want to know. I really want to understand what triggered you. Why were you, so angry?" And she explained it to me, and I said to her, "Well, if you think back on everything that you just said, you say that you never known me to be this type of person." I said, "Well, why didn't we start off with that first before you started ranting and raving at me and fussing at me about something that I hadn't actually done? You never known me to do that. I never done it, but you didn't give me the chance to tell you that I never done it because you just started fussing at me." And from that point on, we it never went that way again. She would always ask me questions because she was like, that's real, that's real clever. That's a good way to stay out of an argument. You ask me questions rather than to get mad with me and start fussing back at me. I don't see the point in me getting angry when you're angry. I don't see that.
It's so neat because, and I wish I could say that, in all the years I've been married and all of our kids and our adult children, and now we have 16 grandkids, that we haven't had some, knockdown, drag out, I love my wife yet, but I can't say we weren't there. And I love this question where we're at, because if there's some things that you kind of, when I say success leaves clues, um,
Hmm.
and I see that, like Satoshi, like I compliment her every single day.
Yes.
I make sure that we have this communication, so there's not miscommunication, right? And you
Right.
explain where they might have been. Uh, I think that solves almost all the problems right there. Is there anything else that you continually do consistently that just keeps that relationship? Because as the minute you guys are watching this and you're going, this isn't my strength. I think we need to take some of these clues, for what y'all are saying to us right now.
So one of the other things that I do is I explain to her. I explained it at the beginning, but I also remind her that one thing that I need you to know is that every time that I talk to you, I want you to understand my intent versus the intent of the males that were in your life previously.
Mm,
My intentions are always going to be good towards you. It's always going to be about love. It's always going to be about true love. And it's always going to be about what defines a real man versus your dudes or your guys that you had before. And the reason why I say that is because there is a difference between the the dude, the guy, and the man. And these are three concepts that I learned about historically a long time ago, because as we think that every male that we see that encompasses a male body is considered a man, and that's not. According to the ancients, they're considered male figures. We're not considered
mm,
men until we prove ourselves to be as such.
okay.
So I explained to my wife that those things right there, the dude, which is the adolescent, he doesn't really fully understand everything that he's supposed to do. He's still trying to figure things out. The guy who understood that he's what had to figure out some things first. He understands the little things about, certain things about being a man, but
Mhm.
he's not ready to cross over and take that step yet. And then
Gotcha.
you have the man who has the full concept of pretty much every single thing that every woman is actually looking for and every young man is looking to look up to. They want to walk in those shoes. So when we look at those things right there, and we look at all three of the factors that we're up against, you have to really make a point, because the average man, real man, we're not looking for someone outside of our relationship. We're not looking for the opportunity to go find this very pretty young girl to go and sleep with. We're not looking for the opportunity to create problems in our relationship. We're looking for the opportunity to fix each and every problem. We're fixing hers, we're fixing ours, we're fixing our children, we're fixing our whole household, and making sure that everybody is on one accord before we ever, ever decide to understand what that next level is, because we can't understand the next level without fixing everything that's at the level that we are first. We can't do that. So
Right.
when I explain to my wife about intent, she now knows that every time that I'm talking to her, and even if it slips up, I say, hold on, baby, remember one thing. Remember one thing before you get angry, because I can see that it's building up. Everything that I say to you, everything that I do, and everything that comes from me towards you, all good intentions. Everything is about love. Everything is about our growth. When I do that, she kind of like mellows out. She's like, yeah, you did remind me of that. I forgot. I'm sorry. But let me say it like this. And the whole conversation changes. And from that point on, we can see and feel ourselves growing to a different level in our relationship.
Um, you have to work at this, right? This isn't like it's just something that comes naturally to all men to be able to do it, right? This has to be, you
Right.
have to show up with intention consistently over time.
Mm,
You know,
yes. Yes, indeed.
how have you dealt with, and this is, I think, I'm thinking through what are the, the areas of contention that, my wife and I might have had, or when I see other couples or folks who, and I think part of it becomes the control, like who has control of different things. For my wife, um, like just the way things look in our house, right? She wants total control. Like, don't
Hmm.
put that chair there. No, that painting doesn't go there. This, and I'm like, but can I at least have my garage? I'm like, well, you can put it in the side of the cabinet in your garage, And so, how have you dealt with and maybe you don't need any of the control, or but to kind of feel like, yeah, I'm still the guy here who gets to do something. Another area that I think that happens a lot is finances, right?
Hmm.
And I think both the husband and the wife should both know how much money, but if one's better than the other at paying the bills and doing stuff, what what's your thought on the control piece, and how do you keep calmness there?
Well, the first thing I do is obliterate control,
Okay.
because control only comes when you have, and it's not about control, it's about the forefront.
Okay.
So let's take, for example, you get a salesman that comes to your house. You're working all the time, so you're hardly ever at home. Your wife is at home all the time, and she does all of the cooking, cleaning, everything, just making sure the house is good.
Mhm.
Perception comes into that as well, because you're out making money and bringing money home. She's at home, and a lot of people don't look at that as work, but that's work. She gets tired. She gets frustrated. She's tired of doing this same mundane thing over and over and over again, but somehow she motivates herself to continue doing it, because the benefit is you come home, you're happy, things are straight, things are organized, the house is clean, and the average real man doesn't want to come home to a dirty house, even if he have to clean it himself. He doesn't want to come home to a dirty house. So let's say the salesman come to the door and ask about something that's happening inside the house. When he asks about those things inside the house, do you step up and say, "Hey, well, this is what goes on in my house, and this is how we do things," and or do you allow her to step in the forefront and you stand by her side letting her know that, hey, if there's anything you need to ask me, I'm here. If you need my support, I'm here. That's the way it's actually supposed to be. Because depending on the situation, depending on the conversation, one person is always going to be the lead over the other person. But if we don't look at it in the controlled sense, but look at it in the sense that, okay, certain situations I have control over, certain situations she has control over, but I'm going to be there by her side, she's going to be there by my side. If we look at it in that way, it kind of eliminates the conflict. Now, one other thing that actually falls in there, and it may not seem like it right now, but it actually falls in there, is for us as men and women individually. We have to understand that all of the faculties that involve other people need to be pushed out. And the reason why I
Mm.
say that is because, irregardless if it's your mom, dad, your brother, your sister, irregardless of who it is, sometimes we can get jealous of relationships
Yeah.
between those people that are outside of our relationship. And why should we ever do that? It's not fair to you, and it's not fair to your companion that you feel some type of way about the way she communicates with other people. If anything, the main thing that should come to your face, to your head, to your frontal lobe, just the same as hers, is that I'm going to be there to support you, irregardless, because it doesn't look like or seem like, and if I really pay close attention to my intuition, it doesn't seem like you're doing anything wrong. So why should I be bothered by this? You know what I'm saying? So a lot of people don't look at it that way, but those are some of the factors that play a part in that. Because one of the things too that a lot of us don't know now is that, do you know that when another male or another female looks at your companion, that is actually a compliment? A lot of us don't know that. A lot
Hmm.
of us think that that's a reason to get pissed off, get upset. Hey man, you disrespecting me, looking at my woman. No, that's actually a compliment. You should be giving your wife a kiss, or she should be giving her man a kiss and telling him or her, thank you. You know, basically, thank you for being in my life, and thanking them, that person that's looking at your companion, for saying, hey, you're not the
Doing
only
it.
one that got good taste. You're
Yeah.
not the only one that has good taste. And obviously, you pick the winner if other people are looking at her too, whether be it male or female. You pick the winner if everybody else is looking at her too.
Yeah. Well, even
So
you
we
think of
have,
energy. Yeah. I think of the energy that we put off, right? And good energy and something that's working well and something that's going good is desirable, right? And somebody could
yes,
be in a bad relationship, see
hmm,
your relationship, and looking at it, desiring, man,
yep,
I wish I was that way. And like you said,
yep,
that's a compliment. That's something that's
yes,
showing it's going right, and there's not an insecurity in you two
exactly,
with that happening, right? Because you
exactly,
see it as a compliment. When you see it as
exactly.
a threat, then now there's an issue. Oh, you looking at her because are you
Hmm,
threatened by the situation that you two have together? Because if you're comfortable
exactly.
in that situation, that don't matter.
And another key thing too, to add to what you're saying, because you're absolutely right, is self. Am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing?
Mhm.
Am I doing the things that I know that's gonna keep me a happy and healthy relationship? Because if I'm not, then now again I'm bringing in these unnecessary negatives of doubt, concern if this person's gonna leave me, things of that nature. So what do you do for that? Turn around, turn around, wake up and turn it around. Turn all of this stuff around. Wake up, start doing the things that you would normally not do, the things that you think are not okay. At least try it with your companion. Try it. And the reason why I say that is because you never know what type of light, what type of spark, what type of growth that you are putting into that relationship by at least trying these things that
Mhm.
you think are negative. Just because you think they're negative doesn't mean that your companion thinks that they're negative. And even if you have to say, hey, I want to try something. and don't say exactly what it is, but just try it. But you told her before you tried it. You say, I want to try something. And she'd probably be like, what is it? What is it? And then you try it. That way you know that you're not starting conflict because I told you that I wanted to try something before I did.
Yeah. Wow. Two things that I can say that revolutionized my, my marriage, my relationship with my wife. One is once we could afford it, is having somebody come in and clean our house and
Mhm.
make it the way she wants it. Hands down, probably the best thing I ever did. As far as that person coming in every couple of weeks and doing whatever they do and taking that stress off.
Mhm.
The other thing that I would say is realizing I don't have to be right. I don't have to be right. It doesn't, when you think about picking your battles or picking the things, if I'm driving down the street and I go one way and she says it's better to go the other way, why do I care? Right? We're gonna get home. If you want me
Right.
to go that way, I'll go that way. To be, even though I might think in my mind, well, this is a better way. It's gonna be faster, right? Whatever it is, I don't have to be right. And there's
No.
so many situations where I'll just stop, hear the conversation, listen, and say, yeah, because it really doesn't matter. And I think so many of us spend so much time trying to be right
Hmm.
instead of trying to be whole, instead of trying to make, the situation come together. I mean,
Yeah.
oh my God, it's
Yeah.
awesome.
If you notice too, one
Um,
of the things that I was saying in what if you notice too, like when you put all of the pieces together for everything that I was saying, it's not about who's right or who's wrong. It's about do we understand? And I say we because I'm not in a relationship by myself.
yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. All right. So I'm glad we're doing this because I think it's so helpful. Let's move into children and kids. And so both of us have grown children. So we've made it through, the part where a lot of men are still going through it. But before we start talking about a dad, because we're still in the relationship,
Hmm.
parenting is, especially if both of you are together in the same, or even if you're not, parenting takes both the mom and the dad.
Hmm.
How do you agree or come together on some of those ways that you're going to do that? Is that something that should come before you have the children, during the time you have the children? What are, and some of it's both, right? I mean, some of it you can't come up with every situation that some of our kids have gotten themselves into over time. We couldn't even anticipate that they would say or do some of the things that they've done.
So
So that,
true.
but just the method of parenting, you think of discipline and how you're going to discipline kids and how you're going to bring them up, and chores and all that. Do chores work? Do chores not work?
Mhm.
Vocabulary. Bringing in, like you mentioned a second ago, is those outside influences. Like, well, my mom did it this way. Well, my mom did it this way, and
Yes.
those aren't congruent with each other. So what are your thoughts on parenting and coming up with some of those things, with your partner, your spouse, as you're figuring
Well,
this out?
the first thing that I would say is this. One thing that we all know is that parenting doesn't come with a book of instructions. It does not.
Ooh, yes, no man, no man.
So, being that, and this is something that I learned in psychology, being that they don't come with a book of instructions, one of the things that I do is that I would monitor my children and see what their behavior patterns are, see how they react to certain things, see how they reject certain things. Like it's just so many different characters and traits that I look at in the children to see what they're doing. So then I have a one full thing that I let my children know. If you're doing something that will endanger your life, we have a problem. If you're not doing something that will endanger your life, but it's still bad, the problem may not be that bad, but I'm still going to let you know about it. and I'm still gonna put whatever out there that I need to put out there. You may not get a spanking, you may not get, a harsh reprimand or anything like that, but you will get something. You will get like some exercises, a timeout. You will get something. You know what I'm saying? So these are the things that I put out there to all of my children at the same time. I bring them together and I let them know this is what it is. So if you choose to go out there and do something different, after I just told you, I gave you the whole structure. After I just told you, then be expecting one of these things to happen. So I put those things out there to my children, and I think that that's important that you have a overall or a general, because none of them are going to be the same. None
No.
of your children are going to be the same.
Yeah, this whole fairness concept, when every kid is different,
Yeah,
you throw that out the window, because you can't, if you try to make everything fair and try to treat everybody the same, they don't react to it the same. Even the
exactly.
discipline can be different. You could have one child that you say one thing, and just the words that you use are
Hmm.
enough. Where the
Yes,
other look at you and try to talk right back, right? You're like, oh no, that's not gonna work.
exactly.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, it's not fair. Okay, who came up with this fairness thing? I mean, you know, oh my gosh. Oh, I love it.
But
Talk to me a little bit about being a dad. What does it mean to be a dad? That theme comes up a lot as we've been going through all of my podcasts, and um, whether here's what I'd say: all of our children need mom and dad. Period.
hmm
No matter what, they need both. You,
hmm
as a parent, you need to do whatever you can to make that happen. Even if you're mad in broken homes and that kind of stuff. If you're mad at the man for whatever he did to you, or the man's mad at the mom for whatever that happened between them, the kids need you. But when we switch over to being a dad, um, there's something about that changes our identity and who we are as men. I,
Yep.
I could look at another man who doesn't have kids, and it's a different person. Just kind of talk to me about what it means uh, to be a dad in your life and the way that you react to things.
For me, I feel like being a father is the world. And I don't mean the world in terms of this entire globe or the entire universe. I don't mean it in that way. I mean it in the way that everything that I do, I have to be that role model. I have to be the one that my children look up to and be like, I would love to be like that someday. I would love to be able to do that someday. I want to be that person that my children know that there's an open door policy, and I tell them there's an open door policy. If you need to talk about something, let me know what level we're going to be on when we're talking at this time. So I tell them, like, yeah, are we on this friendship level? Are we on the level of maturity? Are we on the level where understanding, or am I just being that ear for you to vent and get some things out? So I set these things, these parameters in place for them, so I know how to approach them or how to talk to them whenever I'm talking to them. So having that position or that title as a father, to me it means everything. It has everything to do with shaping, molding, and teaching my children how to walk a path that they have laid and made for themselves, not for a path that I've laid and made for them, for the ones that they've laid and made for themselves. Because I feel like I'm the tour guide. So, as a tour guide, I need to give you the history. I need to give you the explanations. I need to give you all the understandings and all of your working tools that you're going to need to be your version of successful in your life.
Yeah, no, that is as you were just saying that, I was thinking about you saying being a role model and being an example, and making sure that's a different responsibility, because you know that your kids watch you more than any other kids watch you. Like
Hmm.
your kids can have friends, and their friends might watch the person you have, but they're watching their parents for guidance
Mm-hmm.
more. And so that
Yes.
responsibility of, oh my gosh, if I mess this up, or if I'm, and you're going to, and you're going to make mistakes, and it's not always going to be right. But if they know you love them, right, you can get through all of that. But I think about my oldest son is 30. Oh, he's 36 now, and I
Mm-hmm.
still think I'm
Okay.
responsible. He's had 16 years out of 17 years out of the house since he went to college. Whatever. He longer than he stayed with me, and yet I know he still looks to me. He still looks for advice. He still looks for mentorship. That doesn't ever leave. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't. And I think if we think of moms being more nurturing and us being more, discipline and guidance, it's just a whole other thing when we think about our children and our kids and what that means every day. And I go back to purpose, right? Part of living
Yes.
in purpose when you're a parent is that's your purpose. You decided to have, and so if you're not doing those things, right? You can't be living in purpose. I don't know. How could you be?
Exactly. 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 That is so true. That is so true. I just believe that when we follow our intuition, because that intuition is going to lead us into everything that we need to do, everything that we need to know. Of course, we're going to misinterpret some things. Of course, we're going to make some mistakes. But when we do finally get it, we're going to get it. We're going to hold on to it, and we're going to take that, to our graves, and we're going to teach that to somebody else.
Mhm.
And it's funny that you talked about how my children would look at me versus their friends. But it's funny because I actually had the best of both worlds. My children will look at me, their friends were looking at me, and their friends were like, wow, your dad seems so cool. He seems like he knows a lot of stuff or that he does a lot of things. And they actually want to come and hang around sometimes. So I actually started little programs and things of that nature to have the children be around so we can all do things together. And I would start things where sometimes even the parents would come out and get involved. Like we started a little neighborhood exercise program. And I
Mhm.
kid you not, it was so cool because even the people in the office got their little workout gear on and came out and started working out with us. So I love these types of things, and I love being the person that can actually initiate them and see so many of us come together. Because again, that purpose, just being able to see people come together and getting people together, regardless of what your race, color, and creed is, that's it's a blessing.
Yeah, and I love. I'm so glad you said that because when they say it takes a village, it truly does. And so,
Hmm.
it's me being, I've been a track coach now for over 38 years. Some crazy
Awesome.
number where I've had thousands of athletes that I have worked with and come through the programs that I've been part of, and thinking that there's some special ones that I remember, but and a lot of them were when maybe they didn't have a dad that was around. In some cases, we had dads that were incarcerated or in prison, and those kids. I've had kids live at my house, and to have my kids be a part of that and to love on them and be there, knowing, okay, hey, Dad, we have way more better than they have it, so I want to do this, and um, but to, later on in life to be able to see that stuff is so important that we extend ourselves as part of the purpose, right? Uh, just because
Yes.
biologically I have, a child doesn't mean that I'm still not a dad in my community.
Yes. Yes. Yes,
Like
indeed.
you the same way. Where, my house was, I can remember. That's a funny story. When my boys, I have twin boys. They're in high school and they're still there and they're part of they're super popular at school, right? I'm now teaching at that
Yes.
same school, so so they know the kids know these are my kids' dad that's coming in. So everybody wants to come to my house every day, and so this is when like cameras got popular, and so we got our variety, like I don't remember what the Verizon or something cameras, and we put like 6 cameras in the house and only one outside. Because I don't trust you and your friends and what y'all gonna be doing and who's over my house and in my basement and all this. And they're like, but Dad, you gotta trust us. I'm like, I do trust you, but I know these. I hear the stories at school of what y'all do on the weekend. I hear the stories of what you're doing in somebody else's basement. Those
Yes.
kids would come over but respect it. And, oh man, you got cameras on us, huh? Playing video games or whatever they're doing. I'm like, yeah. And they go, well, you can't be doing this. And I'm like, well, you don't have to come over. But yet every week they're all there because they felt safe. They felt loved. They felt, hey, this is a place where I can be me, even when somebody's
Uh-huh.
watching me.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's how we all should, right? Integrity is who you are when nobody's looking. Well, how do you develop
Yes.
that? How do you make sure that those things happen? And to this day, they tell the stories, but
Yes.
so much could have happened in our basement with all those kids there every week,
Hmm.
every weekend that didn't happen as a result. Because I know the house parties that they went to when it wasn't at my house,
Oh yeah.
and some of the stories
Yes.
and who's with child and stuff after some of those parties and that kind of stuff.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah, so it is so big to be part of that community. And I'm so glad we got to talk about relationships today. I don't know. I know that wasn't the plan or where we thought it was going to take us. It just as we think of what it means to be successful as a Black man, uh, it isn't all about, I interviewed yesterday a Super Bowl, winner, NFL player, a totally different conversation where we got to talk about being a dad and being these things from that perspective. What didn't we
Mhm.
talk about that you would love to make sure of, whether the pillars or whether it's just things that you're interested in? Uh, what would you love to spend time talking
Well, one of the things is that I love the fact that you were actually cognizant enough to realize that you were not just a pillar for your community, but you were able to be a father to some that did not have that male figure or that male role model in their household or just in their lives, period. And those were some of the things that I got to experience as well. And I love that because we get to say, hey, although you are not my biological child, you are still my child for that moment because I was responsible for you. And not only that, I get to put you in my memory being in a place that was not only safe for you, but also a part of your life you were able to spend in a place that allowed you to grow up. And I get to see you older now rather than to know that something happened to you because you went to somebody else's house that didn't care. You know what I'm saying? So those things right there, having that type of love, having that type of support, having that being that type of person that cared enough to share your space with some
about?
other children that really don't know you in that way, but over the course of time, they build on you, you build on them, and you have a loving and a respectful relationship that you never intended to have before.
Well, and you don't know the impact that you have, you know, and so you have to be really careful as a role model or a mentor, or because
Yes.
sometimes you don't even know that you're being that person. We talked about on your show that Kimio, who came on to my show, that I coached 30 years ago, and to see the impact that I had on his life 30 years later on little
Yes.
things that he was doing. And he talked about how his dad was, in the streets and a dealer and that kind of stuff, as
Mm.
he was growing up. And so for me to be a different influence than that, 'cause obviously I can never take the place of his dad, nor would I want to, but to be able to see both sides of it and where he could go, it's just so important that we show up as men. Um,
Mm.
and I'd love to ask you this as we're winding down a little bit. Where do we go when we don't know how, or we feel like we're not enough, or we feel like, you and I are talking because we've been doing this for so long, right? There's a ton of
Yeah.
experience at this point. But
Yes.
when I was 24, where do I go to find, where do I go to find out, how do I be a better dad, especially if I didn't have that example? Like my dad
Hmm.
wasn't in the home when I was growing up, or
Hmm.
how do I make sure I have those conversations about how to be a great husband and have great relations with my wife without making all the mistakes? If
Yes.
I didn't see that growing up, and we're, for whatever reason, as black men, we don't get to talk about that stuff.
That's
What
true. That's true. And I tell you, some of the things that actually worked for me was one, getting to know myself, meaning self preservation, understanding who I am, and what I'm meant to be. So that helped me. I took some Lamaze classes. So with my firstborn son, yeah, with my firstborn son, I did the Lamaze classes. And the cool thing about Lamaze classes is they also give you parenting tips, and you learn a lot of parenting tips from women, not so much as the males, because a lot of males are not so much into it, but you learn a lot from the women.
Mhm.
And that helped me so much with my children, because I was a young parent. I was 19 when I had my first child, so it taught me a whole lot.
Yeah.
Then um, the community that I lived in, most of the people in my neighborhood, I know a lot of people can't say this, but they were elders.
Mm.
And each block that we lived on, they were elders. And they say, oh man, well, just make sure you're doing this and make sure you're doing that. And some of the parents would just say, all you have to do is just show your child that you love them, pay attention to what they're doing, and they'll actually show you how to treat them.
Wow.
So
So that.
that was powerful for me. I mean, super, super powerful for me, because I'm one of those observant people. I like to observe things. I like to see. I like to sit back and watch, and then take action wherever I'm needed. If I'm not needed, then I'm going to sit back and just observe and learn. And these approaches are still some of the same approaches that still working to this day with my children as adults.
Wow. Yeah. So true.
It never gets
So true. Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. Relationships and the people that you're around, and finding, I'm sure I say this in every show, but success does leave clues. And those clues that you can watch, if you see somebody who's doing a phenomenal job, somebody that you would
Mhm.
like to emulate, somebody, then spend time with them. Take them out to coffee, take them out to lunch. Just listen to them.
Yes.
Sometimes, we want to do all the talking,
Yeah.
but sometimes it's just great to, those elders that you have, those people that, in your churches, or people in your community groups, the people that you can be a part of, are all assets if you're willing to take advantage of them.
Yeah.
Here's what I say, even at the barbershop, because that's a lot where a lot of us go. The conversation with all the men at the barbershop is probably not going to lead you into a successful relationship, right? Because they're talking about some nonsense. But you can pull people aside and then take somebody to lunch when you both leave the barbershop, right? And get on a one-on-one situation and really start digging deep
Hmm.
and talking and calling and that kind of stuff. There are
Hmm.
programs like, our podcast, where they are dedicated to helping you. If you're just watching reels, or you're just watching Facebook Live, then I would say probably not, because that's just the best of everybody's life, and you think that everybody, especially if you try to
Yes.
compare yourself, because you're just comparing best life to your whole life. It's the same. Um, but if you can dig deep into some of these shows, and some of the
Mhm.
things, like today's show has been phenomenal. If you can pull some of the gems, I got several pages of notes here on, hey, some things that I'm even going to try to do with my spouse. And we've been married a long time, and still be able to. I can be better, right?
Yeah.
I can always be better. Yeah. So thank you for being on, Yehloe. It's been, oh man, just a great show. Any final thoughts that you would have, just before we end today?
Hey, first off, I want to say thank you so much, Dr. B. Anybody who decides to join the podcast, please make sure you join Dr. B's podcast. This is a phenomenal brother looking to do some of the most positive things out here in the world, and we all need to jump on board and be a part of it. The other thing that I would say is this: if you're not sure about certain things, and I'm talking to my brothers because a lot of us don't want to ask for help. If you're not sure about certain things, sometimes it just takes you to sit back, be bored for a moment, and pay attention to what's going on around you because you'll be surprised at how much that force, those energies are sitting back watching you and everything that you're doing and ready to guide you in the right direction. But you have to be willing not only to listen with your ears, but listen with your heart and listen with your mind. You have to.
Wow. Yeah. Great advice. Especially listen with your heart. Hey, Yellow's got a great podcast as well. I'll make sure in the comments and then below that I allow you to get to watch that and see some of that. If you ever get the opportunity to go see him live doing, poetry and doing his stuff, he's got it together. And so thank you for being a part of the Journey to Freedom podcast. Go ahead and do the YouTube things that people do, subscribe and ring the bell and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. I promise you, if it's not this podcast, one of the ones that I talked about can help you move forward in your life and help you to become the man or the woman that you need to be in order to do the thing that God put you on this earth to do, that purpose. So you guys have an amazing, awesome, just incredible day today. Hey, don't forget that your God's greatest gift. He loves you if you allow him to. And we will talk to you on the next one. Have a great day.
Peace and blessings.